हेलो दोस्तों, कैसे हैं आप लोग? जहांगीर मेरे साथ है, हमजा, जहांजीब और आलमगीर और हमारे चैनल। तो गाइस, आज एक और बहुत ही जबरदस्त सबका वीडियो आपके लिए लेके आए हैं।
ये एक अंग्रेज भाई हैं जो बता रहे हैं कि
इंडिया जो है सबसे ज्यादा मेट्रो जो है ना
डेवलप
कर रहा है तो इंडिया के अंदर। ठीक है, मतलब बहुत सी सिटीज के अंदर मेट्रो
सुनना चाहूंगा आखिर इन्होंने क्या
इतना बड़ा कंट्री है, इतनी आवाम है, कोई चीज करनी पड़ेगी।
तो
मैं सुनना चाहूंगा कि वो जो भाई हैं हमें इंडिया के जो मेट्रो सिस्टम है इसके बारे में क्या फैक्ट्स बताएंगे।
यही तो एक बेसिकली वीडियो, इसका टाइटल ये है जी, इंडिया द कंट्री बिल्डिंग द मोस्ट मेट्रोज। तो देखते हैं जी आज ये वीडियो, बहुत मजा आने वाला है। ठीक है जी, क्या क्या इसमें हमें फैक्ट्स मिलते हैं और चलते हैं जी, वीडियो देखते हैं। लेट्स स्टार्ट।
I remember sitting on what was an amazing piece of technology at the time, an iPad, in 8th grade, and looking at metro systems around the world. It was the first time I really went onto the internet and just looked at metro systems in various countries and transit systems in general. And I was sort of amazed seeing countries like Italy and Brazil that actually had a surprising number of rail systems. But the country that clearly stood out from the rest was China, who not only had massive metro systems in Shanghai and Beijing, but had also opened new entire metro systems just in the 2000s in Shenzhen, Chengdu, Xi'an, Nanjing, Foshan, Dalian, Shenyang, Changchun, and Chongqing. Perhaps the most amazing case is the Chengdu Metro, which first opened in 2010 and now has 373 stations. It's bigger than the London Underground, and it's almost as big as the New York subway, and it opened like 10 years ago. My university roommate, when I was back in university, was from Chengdu, and he told me how when he left Chengdu there was 1 or 2 metro lines, and when he came back there was going to be 7 to 9 metro lines. Just mind-blowing. Of course, this was happening in parallel with China's sort of rise to the international stage, and while I was impressed by seeing metros popping up left and right, I was amazed when I looked at India and saw that the country didn't have nearly as many metro systems. India was also pretty famously growing at an incredible rate at the time, and seeing that there was only really metro systems in Delhi and Kolkata was sort of surprising. Well, a few months ago, I think I was spending some time looking at metro systems, various websites, and, well, I have some nice news to report about India. Let's get into it.
इंडिया के बारे में देखते हैं क्या
दिल्ली और कोलकाता में
बोलना नहीं है, सुनना है।
सही बात है,
बोलेंगे समझ नहीं आएगी। ट्रांसफॉर्मिंग ट्रांसपोर्ट हमारी पब्लिक को भी समझ नहीं आएगी।
Now, as I mentioned, when I was looking at metro systems back in 2011, India really only had its 2 original systems in Delhi and Kolkata. Now, both of those systems have grown, but Delhi's in particular has been pretty incredible, with over 100 kilometers of new metro built in just the last 10 years. To put that into perspective, Toronto has built like 7 kilometers of new metro. And before you say it, yes, Canada is a smaller country, but Toronto is still a big city, and we should be building way more metro akin to what Delhi is doing. Now, with that out of the way, what was amazing was when I went a few months ago to look at these systems in India, India suddenly had 11 more metro systems than it had just 10 years ago. 11. Now I'm going to break them down here, talk about the future, and just generally how cool it is to see a wave out of the way are the Noida Metro and the Rapid Metro Gurgaon. Calling these systems new systems is maybe a bit generous because they're both kind of suburban systems extending from Delhi. Basically, suburban municipalities decided to build their own metro systems. Gurgaon's is really an interesting story, but I'll leave that to another day. Basically, calling these truly separate systems would be akin to saying a new subway system opens in Mississauga next to Toronto, and that constitutes a new subway system. It's really all just one big system. That being said, I'm not necessarily sure where to draw the line. If you look again at China, Shanghai and Suzhou both have metro systems that are both actually quite big, and they're considered separate. I believe they're interlinked, and I guess the question I would raise is, what constitutes a separate system? Is it about the fare system? Is it about whether they're connected? Is it about whether it's one contiguous urban area? Leave your comments down below. Anyways, the Rapid Metro Gurgaon and the Noida Metro both have or either plan to have fare medium integration, the same metro card as the Delhi Metro, which does bring them under one umbrella in my eyes. That said, part of me feels like these should just be really fully rolled into the Delhi Metro, since they even use the same color, which cannot be ideal for wayfinding, given that Delhi generally describes its lines in terms of color. In the case of the Rapid Metro in Gurgaon, the system uses 750-volt DC third rail and trains from CRRC, which generally feels like a bit of a downgrade from general Delhi Metro standards. On the other hand, the Noida Metro uses 25 kV AC overhead power and again CRRC rolling stock, a bit more in line with Delhi Metro standards. Now the rapid metro in Gurgaon does probably earn its name since it has only 11 stations over 17 kilometers of length. It connects to Delhi's Yellow Line. It's also referred to as LRT, which means truly no one is immune from that term. The Noida Metro, on the other hand, has 21 stations over 30 kilometers of track, so still a pretty wide station spacing, and connects to Delhi Metro's Blue Line. It's really kind of reminding me of some of those suburban lines in Beijing or Mexico City, where you have a line that kind of goes out into the suburbs that's just its own metro line. Now, as it turns out, Delhi Metro kind of has its hands in both systems. It's the contract operator and maintainer of the Noida Metro, and a generally interesting fact, both of these systems are fully elevated, which makes sense, I suppose, since they are in the suburbs. Now, this video really isn't about Delhi Metro, though clearly Delhi Metro wants it to be. I'm thinking of restarting my Demystified series with a video on the Delhi RRTS, which I think is a super interesting system, akin to maybe Seoul's GTX, but elevated. And anyways, if you'd like to see that, comment down below. I know I've said to comment on another thing, but seriously, it's just the best way to communicate with people since things get crazy sometimes. It's really been a while since I've made a Demystified video, so I think it's probably about time to bring it back. Now, we're going to leave the Delhi area and look at metro systems across the rest of India. Again, remembering that just 10 years ago, the country had only 2 metro systems. Now, I'm going to divide these systems into 2 categories. One will be 750 volt DC third rail systems, the other will be the 25 kV AC overhead wire powered systems. For the third rail systems, we have 3. The Nama Metro, the Kochi Metro, and the Ahmedabad system. Nama is a 2-line system with 51 stations over 56 kilometers of track and Hyundai Rotem rolling stock. This system opened in October of 2011, probably a little bit after I started doing my wide-ranging research. Kochi is a single-line system with 22 stations over 26 kilometers of track and Alstom Metropolis Metro rolling stock. I want to point out too that Kochi probably has my favorite metro logo of any of the systems in India. Besides Delhi, I think it's a toss-up for me. I think that the metro logo is incredibly important because it becomes a symbol of the city, and so it's good to see that there has been thought put into it. This system opened just in 2017. Finally, there's Ahmedabad, which has maybe the smallest metro system operational that I've seen, especially considering that the trains and the size of everything is still large. It's only got 6 stations on 6 kilometers of track. Though it does have high-quality trains supplied by Hyundai Rotem, who you'll notice supply a lot of systems in India, and it opened just 2 years ago. As it turns out, all of these systems are expanding. Nama is building 3 new metro lines, and Kochi and Ahmedabad are both building 2 new metro lines. So tons of new metro lines built with third rail to go around. Now it's time for the much more numerous 25 kV AC overhead line powered systems. Now 25 kV AC is a standard mainly seen on mainline long distance railways, though systems like the Elizabeth line in London also use this standard. The reason alternating current is so attractive is because you require less substations because the power carries for longer distances. That's why long distance transmission lines use AC power. Now, because Delhi Metro both consulted on and influenced a lot of metro systems in India, you see 25 kV AC overhead power on a lot of the systems. And again, that's simply because Delhi Metro basically pioneered doing that. Jaipur is a 1-line system with rolling stock that's uniquely built and designed in India. The system has 11 stations over 12 kilometers of track and opened in 2015, though a second line is set to open this year. The Lucknow Metro features 1 line with 21 stations over 23 kilometers of track. And very familiar looking trains from Alstom. Where have I seen these trains before? The system opened in 2017. The Hyderabad Metro features 3 lines and 57 stations, and in my opinion feels like kind of the most cohesive system in the country outside of Delhi. I'm also kind of a big fan of the map. A lot of the maps of the systems I've seen in India aren't my favorite, but the one in Hyderabad is really nice. And yeah, this comprehensive metro system, it opened in 2017, 4 years ago. And as you might expect, its rolling stock was provided by Hyundai Rotem. The Nagpur Metro features 24 stations on 26 kilometers of track with rolling stock provided by CRRC, who isn't that common in the Indian market. The system just opened in 2019, 2 years ago. 2019 was a bit of a crazy year. India opened 3 metro systems. There's also Chennai, who has 42 stations over 54 kilometers of track on 2 lines in its network. The trains are also supplied by Alstom on this system, and you'll notice that Alstom, like Hyundai Rotem, has broken into the market in a bunch of different cities in India, though I don't believe any of their trains are in use in Delhi, which is a bit surprising given how extensively they've entered the market. And they're also really big in the mainline freight market in India. It's another topic for a future video. It's an interesting network as well. I actually think it would be really cool if Delhi Metro did a fully automated line with the Alstom Metropolis akin to the REM or what Sydney Metro's done. Probably more on the Sydney Metro side, given that Delhi needs the capacity. But yeah, Delhi would be a great place to originate automated metro in India. I don't believe India currently has an automated metro line. So that's an interesting opportunity. And of course, last but not least is Mumbai, whose system struggled a lot and didn't open until 2014. Now, Mumbai still only has one line, but that's going to change really quickly. While the current single line only has 12 stations on its 11-kilometer route, which is more stations per route length than most systems in India, there is a ton of metro being built in Mumbai right now, more than already exists in many large cities. There are currently 6 lines under construction with over 200 kilometers of track. Now, I also want to mention that the trains in Mumbai, which are manufactured by CRRC, are quite iconic. They have this sort of swept back face that just looks somewhat unusual for a metro system. Now, it's also clearly the plan for the Mumbai Metro to become something of the scale of the Delhi Metro. So it seems like India is sort of set to be like China, with 2 main metros, in China's case Shanghai and Beijing, in the country, with Delhi and Mumbai. I think that's good to have 2 good metro systems. I would argue Canada does as well with Toronto and Montreal, because you sort of can have this dynamic of the systems competing and pushing each other forward. Now, I think when the Mumbai Metro starts to really open up and all of the lines are opening, it's going to really transform mobility in that city. Mumbai, if you're familiar at all, has a really complicated geography. There's a peninsula and the like, and there's very crowded suburban trains, which maybe can be upgraded once some of the traffic is taken off by the metro and the like. But suffice to say, the city is going to benefit massively from metro rail, and that's part of what's so exciting about seeing these systems. They're going to be really intensely used, and that's just awesome. Now, why did I divide the systems into 2 categories? Well, a lot of people want me to make the pantograph versus...
Okay. So guys, जैसा कि आपने ये देखा है वीडियो, बहुत ही जबरदस्त इन्होंने पूरी डिटेल से वीडियो बनाई है, और बेसिकली इन्होंने बताया कि इंडिया का जो मेट्रो सिस्टम है कितना जबरदस्त और स्ट्रॉन्ग है, और ये 2
चाइना और कनाडा जैसी और अमेरिका जैसी कंट्री से कंपेयर किया जा सकता है। मेरे ख्याल में कंपेयर करने पे भी ज्यादा ये मेरे ख्याल में ये जो है ना, उन्होंने जो बताया है कि ये मेट्रो सिस्टम सबसे ज्यादा बड़ा है और काफी बड़ी कंट्री से। इनफैक्ट ये भी उन्होंने बताया कि हालांकि टोरंटो जो है बहुत बड़ा शहर है, जिस तरह दिल्ली है, ठीक है, लेकिन दिल्ली का देखें आप मेट्रो सिस्टम कितना बड़ा है, पूरा जाल है, पूरा जाल, ठीक है। और इसी तरह का टोरंटो है, लेकिन टोरंटो का जो है मेट्रो सिस्टम बहुत छोटा है, ठीक है। तो वो इसी के ऊपर उन्होंने मिसाल
इंडिया असल में उसकी जरूरत है ये मेट्रो ट्रेन।
यार चाइना छोटा है
भाई, बात ये है कि अब कराची को देख लो आप, आबादी की तो बात है ना, आबादी की बात है, अब शहर की एक आबादी है, आबादी अब
कराची एक मेट्रो ट्रेन है, वो लैंड जब जाती है मजा फिर आता है।